Count down nicely. He always goes 5, 3, 1.
Bottom line is, he was rich and he was young. And he was a ruler, he was an influential person in the society.
Welcome to Energ-Aid, a program for young people just like you and I.
As growing up as a refugee and being able to go to school and being a doctor, you know, it was...
Wow.
Yes, because how do you learn more about him if you don't doubt?
You don't doubt. Wow.
By the way, you can't even trust God if you don't doubt. Do you know that?
Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There is no shadow of turning within. Thou changest not the compassions, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever will be. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto thee. Summer and winter and springtime and harvest, sun, moon, and stars in their courses above, join with our Nazarene manifold witness to thy great faithfulness, mercy, and love. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thou hast
I finished internship, and then an opportunity came like, hey, would you want to work with GRS, you know, to promote refugee education and stuff like that?
So
because
it's not something that you looked for, it just came out.
it just came out.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was a desire of mine to be able to advocate for vulnerable kids, especially refugees, knowing that, you know, these are innocent ones who they didn't choose to flee,
Yeah.
they didn't choose anything.
And also
their
you've
lives,
been there.
I've been there, but now because of wars, their lives are just being turned, you know, upside down, and there's no future. So I had a passion for those kind of things. So when the opportunity came for me to work with Jesuit Refugee Service and be able to advocate for such, I was like, yes, like I really want to do that. Because even when I was in China, that was one of the passions. You know, when you're in school and you're growing and you're getting to know God more and searching, okay, what am I here for? What is my purpose and what are my passions? That was still one of the things that I really wanted to do, like, hey,
Deep down.
like deep down, like education for refugees, because I would see people whom I had left in the camp and they were still there, like for years, you know, without having an opportunity to go to school. So that really ate me up, you know? So it was still a passion of mine, but I still didn't know how it would come about. So when this chance came, I was like, yes, I really want to do it. And thank God it's part-time.
Okay.
So I can still combine my that
medicine
and my advocacy, but still be able to, you know, specialize in, because in the near future I really want to specialize in mental health, because I want to be a full package in a way. Because when I come across these kind of kids, like say I'm invited to speak to a group of kids, but maybe one of them has an issue or something, I find myself kind of limited in a way. Like I can help from experience point of view, but then I really wanted to have that experience, like professional skill, to be able to help in a way. So that's how I really thought, like, maybe if I branch into this mental health path, it will really help me. So yeah, so right now, coming back to now I've been working with the organization for a few months and traveling a little bit, so now I'm back, and the future is very bright, and I'm really loving what I'm doing now and how God is using me in many different ways to touch people's hearts. Yeah, so that's where I am now. I guess I should stop there.
That is such a beautiful story. I mean, it's almost unbelievable. And I think what I really love about your story, and also just the way you explain it, is how you attribute everything to God.
Definitely, definitely.
I mean, everything that has happened is, you know, do you believe it's God? I remember I've heard you say the story before, and I remember also the first time I heard you say, you kept on saying, God did this, if it hadn't been for God, you know.
Yes, because even me being alive today is God. Many people died during the wars. Many people died, and to think that from my family I'm the only one living today, it's like, okay, you know, there has to be a God. There has to be a God who is, you know, has a hand on me, who has a plan for me, and yeah, like there are many things that I can't explain. Even what I'm doing now, I can't explain how I got to work with Jairus, you know, how this opportunity came. So it
just has to be God.
It has to be God.
And you know, we're talking about endurance, and endurance insinuates that there is some kind of struggle. And for you, that was the war, the genocide, and also just all the things that happened in between, you know, falling sick and starvation, and all that could have actually stopped you from even making it here today, you know. At any point you could have given up, but you didn't, you know, you pulled through. And how did you do that, really? Because it's almost, you know, if it were for me, to be honest, I think I would have just given up a long time ago.
Well, I would say at different points, at different times, there were different motivations, things that really motivated me. Like when I was going through that, it was just more of wanting to survive, you know. When I was going through the fleeing and stuff, it was more of wanting to survive and stuff like that, because everybody wants to live, and you know, you just have to push through. But then when now growing up in the refugee camp, it was more, what really made me push through was me knowing that, you know what, I really want to get somewhere, you know. I know, like, I want to be somebody. I don't want to end my life to end like this. Like, I know that there is something, that there is potential. I know that education can actually push me through this, education can actually change this story of mine into something different. But now as I grew older, and in China, when I really actually got closer to God and actually got to know God personally for myself, when I realized that I have a purpose, like, you know, I'm not just here to just occupy space, you know. When I realized that, you know, there is a reason why I'm alive today, and there is a reason that I've passed through all that struggle, and, you know, God has a purpose, God has a plan for me. When I realized that I have a purpose, that is that thing that really pushed me. Because when you know where you're going, no matter what comes your way, you're like, no, I know that I'm going that somewhere, you know. No matter what comes to push you out, you'll be like, no, I know that I'm going somewhere. So for me, now, when I grew older, knowing that I have a purpose, I know where I'm going, I know that God has a plan, that really helped me push through.
Yeah. And what are some of the major life lessons that you have learned along the way?
Major life lessons. There are quite a lot. And just from my story, from my experience, one of the major life lessons that I've learned, and you might know, is that there has to be a God.
Okay.
There has to be a God.
Yeah.
And this God is who he says he is. And when he says that he loves me, when he says that he will protect me, when he says that, you know, I have to trust him, he means it, you know. Because the things that I've explained, there are certain things that I didn't plan, but they came to be, and they're beautiful things, you know. So for me, one of those, the life lessons, like, there has to be a God, and I really have to trust him. And the other lesson that I really learned is that there is not really any hopeless situation ever. If there is a God, there is no any hopeless situation. Like, because if you take my story, you would think that, yeah, that was the end, you know. Yeah, she's a refugee, her life is tragic, she'll end up in a refugee camp. But no, you know, and I attribute all that to God. So if there is a God, I mean, no, there is a God, there's no any hopeless situation. There's always light at the end of the tunnel, as people say. You know. And the other thing is that I've learned is that there's really an importance. There's the importance of really putting effort, like your own, like
your own
in whatever you're doing, just putting effort. Because if I didn't really work hard in secondary school, or I didn't work hard in university, I wouldn't be here, you know. If I didn't work hard in secondary school, that opportunity wouldn't come for me to go to China. So, you know, like, really working hard at everything that one does is really, really, really important. They're quite a lot. But
those are the three that you would say.
Those are the three. Yeah.
And you also, you know, with your story as well, there have been so many opportunities that came up, and you took every one of them. You never just kind of went, well, you know, I'm not sure. And I really love how you just grabbed at every opportunity that came your way. And, you know, that really is just God.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone who feels like, I'll never make it, you know, that they've been trying and failing, that now they just don't want to try anymore?
That's a good one. You know, like, there's the thing that people say, that don't give up, of which it is true. You know, like, whenever you fall, don't give up, just pull yourself up, you know. But then you may ask, okay, I've heard that many times, you know, everybody tells me don't give up, you know, but then why shouldn't I give up? You know, you should ask, okay, you might ask, why shouldn't I give up? For me, it's because, okay, if you're alive and there is a God, then there is hope for you, you know. And, you know, like, in life, there are seasons. As I was saying, there are seasons, you know. Even in Malawi, we have seasons, but in the West, there's winter, summer, spring and fall, and stuff like that, you know. And in these seasons, you know, it's time for you to look, okay, why is this happening, you know? Why is this happening in this season? And in those seasons, God still remains the same. God still loves you. God still has a plan. You know, God still cares. And it's up to you to actually seek God and say, okay, why am I going through this? Why is this happening? What should I do? You know, and really actually stop comparing yourself to friends. Because, as I said, there are seasons. Your friend might be in spring, but you're in winter, and you're trying to compare yourself, you know, and you're feeling pity for yourself because somebody else's life looks better. But, you know, it's time for us to actually just walk your own path, knowing that, you know, God has your own path, and in this, what are you learning from this? You know, why are you learning through all these hardships? And know that actually, like, really, if they say don't give up, don't give up, because God has never given up on you. God will never give up on you. And the other thing that I've really realized is that with social media and stuff, you see people posting things like, oh, people, you know, my life is all well, my life is all this and that and that. But that everything is never really what it seems to be. Like, you know, somebody might be posting that, but they're really struggling inside, and for you, you're actually stressing because somebody posted a very nice picture, but probably that's not what what's really happening. Maybe you're going through the same thing, you know. So just learning that life is just full of seasons, and knowing that, you know, God will take you through all those seasons if you're walking with Him, if you're seeking Him, and really trying to not copy what other people are doing, because maybe God wants you to do something different. You know, this might have failed because probably maybe God wants you to take up that something. So it's all about seeking God, really, and knowing, okay, if this is going like this, what do I have to do? What does God want me to do? Not what has somebody else done, you know? Yeah.
And you mentioned before, let's just go back a bit, that when you were at camp, that's also when you would go to church sometimes. Previously, you know, of course there was genocide, but was your family also going to church, or is it something that you learned when you came to Malawi?
When I was young, of course, I don't really remember if we went to church. But even in the camp in Congo, because there we stayed a little bit. That's where I grew up a little bit, from 2.5 to maybe 5. Yeah, we would go to church. Even in the camp, we would go to church. But still, you know, that kind of a thing where you're going because everybody is going, and you really don't know why you're going. You don't really know. Okay, there is a God, and yeah, if you know, the world ends today, I'm going to heaven, that kind of a thing, like just, but I didn't really know God personally, I would say. It was when I was in China, when you know, to say that I actually met God in China, a country where, you know, it's actually very tricky. But yeah, it was in China where I started to really seek God, and actually got to know God for who He is. Of course, it's still a journey of knowing God, because you can never really know God
Him,
fully. But just that journey of getting closer to Him and really knowing Him for who He is, and knowing that He really, 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 really loves me, you know. Because I really never got that from when I was young. It was just like, hey, my life is tragic. I've gone through so much. Hey, feel pity for me. Hey, like, you know, nobody can really love me for who I am, because as growing up, people had left me. Of course, they had died, but in my mind, in my little mind, it was like people were abandoning me. You know, the mind is a tricky thing, you know. So it registered like nobody can really love me unconditionally, you know. But then when I went to China, I really got to know God. It was that kind of like a revelation, like, you know what, God loves you unconditionally, and actually people around you love you unconditionally. So it was, it was the kind of thing.
So, you know, you're talking about how you just felt, you know, abandoned, or like nobody loves me, my life is tragic and everything. So would you say that you were sort of bitter when you were younger?
Yes, I was somehow bitter, and it showed even with my friends. When I first got to China with my friends, you know how you always questioning your friends' intentions, like, hey, you didn't invite me to this thing, or you didn't tell me this first, you told her first, that means you don't love me. So it showed up in those kind of thing, and it really came out on my friends like that. You know? Yeah.
And so what was the turning point for you exactly? Would that be in China?
Yes, that was in China when I got to really learn about the unconditional love of God, you know, and knowing that I'm lovable, first of all, because I didn't know that from the beginning. I didn't think I was lovable. And of course, I didn't really voice it out, but the way I thought, the way, you know, I interacted with people, it showed like that. So when I actually realized that God loves me unconditionally, that was the turning point. That was the turning point.
Was it that you were going to church, or was it something that you just like read the Bible or pray?
Yes, I started going to a church which encouraged me to read the Bible.
Okay.
And then I was reading Romans and all these things for myself and actually getting to understand and the sermons and everything. And yeah, and then that was like it.
That was it.
Yeah, reading the Bible, the truth, the whole truth, you know, yeah.
And you're only 27.
Yes.
Wow.
Not only, I'm old. 27 is a lot.
And you have traveled the world.
Maybe, yeah, a few countries.
A
yeah.
few countries.
Yeah.
What was it like? What was your first actual appearance where you actually got to tell your story?
Oops, sorry, come again?
When was the first time you told your story?
So the first time that I got to tell my story, like in public,
In public.
because of course, like I would tell like one or two people
Okay.
here and there, but the first time I really got to tell my story in public, I think that was in Rome, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was in Rome. But maybe, I don't really remember much, but I think even before Rome, I had been invited to speak to different kids
Okay.
at times, like in schools. But like now the big thing, like, yeah, she's telling her story, that was in Rome when I was invited to one of the events.
And how old were you?
I was, that was 2017.
Okay.
Yeah. So that means I was how old? Now I'm 26.
Yeah.
26.
Okay.
No,
And
26? No. Yes, 20. No,
25.
25. Yes. Oh my. Yeah, I'm
And
25.
what was it like, walking on stage? I can imagine, you've come so far, from a little refugee camp, and all of a sudden you're put on this huge platform with people just to listen to your story, not anything else, but just your life story.
Okay, I was scared in the first place because,
Okay.
it's a big stage, but also it was an opportunity, it was an opportunity because I've always wanted those chances for me to be able to share my story. Not that people should feel sorry for me, but people should see God. People should see what God can do in people's lives if you're going through, hardships, but also to show people how one simple act of kindness can change somebody's life. So it was for me an opportunity, like, hey, like I've been given a stage to really share something, a message, and let's do this, let's do this to the perfection. Yeah.
Yeah. You talk a lot about opportunities. That's a word that you have mentioned throughout. Is there anything that you'd like to say to the viewer about opportunities?
I would say opportunities, they come in all different ways. And it's only when you take it, when you realize how the importance of it. Because sometimes something comes up and you're like, really? Maybe. But when you take that chance and you actually see where it leads you, that's when you see like, oh, so this is what, what this was the plan after all, like this was the plan. So I would say really take a chance of every opportunity that you get, and work hard at that. Work hard at that because you never know what it will bring. Because like for me, I really took the opportunity of school, right? Like the chance that I was given, people paid for my school fees. I went to secondary school. I took that chance. And at that time, I would be honest, I didn't really know that I would get a chance to go to university. I didn't. Because in the refugee camp, they would only give 25 spots to go to college in Canada. And in a mass, like there would be hundreds of people waiting for that spot. So I didn't really know that I would get a chance to go to university after secondary school. But I took that chance of using that opportunity of being able to go to secondary school and worked hard and got 6 points. And it was that gave me another chance, another opportunity for me to be able to go to China. I mean, what if I didn't use that chance of going to secondary school? What if I just gave up and just didn't work hard at secondary school? Would I have gotten that other opportunity to go to university? No. So it's just like use the opportunity that you have now. You never know what will come next.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is there any last thing that you'd like to say to the viewer?
I don't think I have anything new to say.
Okay.
It's just just stressing that there is always hope. There is always hope because there is a God. There is a God who cares for you. There is a God who protects you. There is a God who is who He says He is, who is in charge. First of all, who is in charge, and nothing comes by surprise to Him. And if He loves you, then that means He has a good plan. And one thing that I want to actually say is that just because you're going through something, a valley, just because you're going through a hardship doesn't mean that God hasn't blessed you.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that God has forgotten you. Because we've seen these things of people saying, oh, I'm #blessed because something good is happening, and they've only associated with blessings and goodness of God with only the
material
good
things.
things, material things, only happy moments. But even in that valley, in that season of winter, there is goodness of God in that, because God remains the same no matter what. He's still good, even even if our world seems chaotic or whatever. God still remains good, sovereign, still remains faithful, still remains protective. He's still the same. So just that's an important thing to really remember every time. That you can change, but God doesn't change, and if He doesn't change, that means like things will be good. Yes.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. Pleasure of mine.
That was Dr. Mireille on endurance. She shared her life story, and I really hope that her story has helped you in whatever season that you're in at the moment. I hope that you have been inspired and blessed. You're with me, your host Adela Chokoto, right here on Hope Channel Malawi with your program Energ-Aid. Join me again next week, and remember, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you.
There's a stranger at the door. Let him in. Let him in. No. He has been there before. Let him in. He's gone. Let him in, the Holy One. Jesus Christ, the Father, Son, let him in. Oh, 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 open up to him your heart, let him in. Let him in. Oh. If you wait, he will depart. Let him in. He's your friend, and your soul he